The Stranger in the Flames, 2000 words. ####The night the sky turned red. The smell of smoke woke Arya before the screams did. She sat up in her small bed, her heart already racing as orange light flickered through her window. Fire. Not the comfortable glow of hearth fires, but the angry roar of destruction eating through wood and stone. She threw on her cloak and grabbed her healing bag, the one her grandmother had given her before passing. Outside, the entire noble quarter of Thornhaven was burning. Flames reached toward the sky like angry fingers, and people ran in every direction, crying and shouting for loved ones. Arya was not noble. She was just a healer who lived in a cottage at the edge of the village, where the mountain forest began. But her gift for healing had been passed down through her family for generations, and she could not stand by while people suffered. "Stay back!" a guard shouted as she ran toward the burning buildings. "The whole district is coming down." But Arya's gift made her sensitive to life, to the pulse of living things. And somewhere in that inferno she could feel someone still alive. Someone strong, fighting to survive even as the flames consumed everything around them. She pushed past the guard and wrapped her wet cloak around her face. The heat hit her like a physical blow. But she kept moving, following that faint thread of life she could sense through the smoke and chaos. ##### Inside the flames. The mansion was collapsing. Beams fell from the ceiling, and the floor beneath her feet felt dangerously weak. Arya coughed, her eyes streaming with tears from the smoke. She was about to turn back when she saw him. A man lay trapped beneath a fallen beam, unconscious. His face was covered in soot and burns, his fine clothes torn and scorched. Even through the damage she could tell he was someone important. The quality of his boots alone probably cost more than her cottage. "Can you hear me?" she shouted over the roar of the fire. No response. The beam across his chest was too heavy for her to lift alone. But her gift showed her he was still alive. Barely. His life force flickered like a candle about to go out. Arya placed her hands on the beam and called on every bit of strength she had. Her healing gift was not meant for moving objects, but desperation gave her power she did not know she possessed. The beam shifted just inches, but enough. She dragged the man out from under it, hooking her arms beneath his shoulders. He was heavy, all muscle and solid weight, but fear gave her the strength to pull him toward the door. The ceiling groaned above them. Arya looked up just in time to see the entire roof beginning to cave in. She would not make it. They would both die here. Then something inside her awakened. A warmth that had nothing to do with the flames spread through her chest and down into her arms. Her hands began to glow with soft golden light, and suddenly the man felt lighter. Her legs felt stronger. Arya ran. She burst through the doorway just as the entire building collapsed behind them in an explosion of fire and smoke. The force knocked her forward, and she fell hard on the cobblestones, still clutching the unconscious stranger. Guards rushed over, pulling them both further from the flames. Someone threw a blanket over them to smother any sparks. Arya coughed and gasped, her lungs burning, but she was alive. They were both alive. "Who is this?" one of the guards demanded, looking at the man she had saved. Arya looked at his face, now that they were in clearer air. Even unconscious and injured, he was handsome. Strong features, dark hair, a scar on his jaw that spoke of old violence. But what struck her most was the sadness she sensed from him, even in his unconscious state. This was a man who carried deep pain. "I don't know," she said truthfully. "But he needs help. Now." #### The cottage by the woods. The village healer's house was overwhelmed with burn victims, so Arya took the stranger to her own cottage. The guards tried to stop her, saying he might be dangerous, that no one knew who he was or why he had been in that mansion. "He's hurt," Arya said firmly. "I'm a healer. This is what I do." They let her go, too busy with the chaos of the fire to argue with one stubborn village woman. Her cottage was small but comfortable, filled with herbs hanging from the ceiling and shelves lined with medicine bottles. She laid the stranger on her bed, the only bed, and began the long work of healing him. His burns were severe. Without her gift, he would have died within hours. But Arya had learned from the best healers in her family line, and she knew how to call on the ancient magic that lived in her blood. She placed her hands on his chest and let the golden light flow from her palms into his damaged skin. The burns began to heal slowly, the angry red fading to pink and then to healthy flesh. Took hours. By the time she finished, the sun was rising, and she was so exhausted she could barely stand. The stranger was still unconscious, but he would live. His breathing was steady now, his face peaceful in sleep. Arya collapsed in her chair by the fire and let herself rest for just a moment. Just a moment before she needed to check on him again. When she woke, it was afternoon, and someone was watching her. ####, the man with storm gray eyes. The stranger was awake, sitting up in her bed, looking at her with eyes the color of storm clouds. Intense, intelligent, and wary. "Where am I?" His voice was rough from smoke and pain. "My cottage," Arya said, standing up quickly. Her healer instincts kicked in. "Don't move too fast. You were badly burned. You're lucky to be alive." He looked down at his arms, at the new pink skin where the burns had been. Understanding dawned in his eyes. "You healed me. You have the gift." "Yes." Arya brought him water and checked his pulse. "Strong and steady. What's your name? The guards will want to know who you are." Something shifted in his expression. A wall came up quick and defensive. "Damon. Just Damon. Just Damon," she repeated, sensing the lie in the words. "Not about the name but about everything else. Do you remember what happened? The fire." He closed his eyes. "I was visiting someone. I don't remember much after that." Another lie. Or at least not the full truth. But Arya did not push. She understood that people sometimes needed to keep secrets to stay safe. "The noble quarter burned almost completely," she told him. "Many people died. Do you have family who might be looking for you?" "No," he said quickly. Too quickly. "No family." Arya studied him. Despite the burns and exhaustion, he carried himself like someone used to being in control. His hands, even damaged, showed signs of sword training. The calluses were in all the right places. And the way he spoke, the accent beneath the roughness, spoke of education and privilege. "You're hiding from something," she said quietly. Damon met her eyes, and for a moment she saw real fear there. "Will you turn me in?" Arya thought about it. She should report him to the guards. A mysterious stranger, possibly involved in whatever had caused that fire. But her gift told her something the guards could not know. This man was not evil. He was hurt, yes, and hiding definitely. But he was not a danger to her. "No," she said. "You can stay until you're healed. But I need to know if keeping you here will put me in danger." "I'll leave tonight," he said. "You've already risked too much for me." "You can barely stand," Arya pointed out. "And you have no supplies, no food, probably no money. Where would you even go?" Damon had no answer for that. "Stay," Arya said. "At least for a few days. Let yourself heal properly. Then you can decide what comes next." #### dangerous questions. Over the next week, Arya learned both everything and nothing about her mysterious guest. Damon helped around the cottage as he grew stronger, chopping wood and repairing her leaking roof. He was good with his hands, skilled at practical work, but also educated. She caught him reading her books in the evening, and they fell into discussions about history and healing that showed he knew far more than any common traveler should. But he never spoke about his past. Never mentioned family or home, or what he had been doing in that burning mansion. Then the soldiers came. Arya was gathering herbs in her garden when she heard the horses. 6 mounted guards in the colors of the royal house, their armor gleaming in the afternoon sun. Her heart jumped into her throat. "Good day," the captain called down to her. "We're searching for someone. A man, tall, dark hair, possibly injured. Have you seen anyone matching that description?" Behind her, through the cottage window, Arya could see Damon frozen in place, listening. "Many people were injured in the fire," Arya said carefully. "I've treated dozens of patients." "This man is dangerous," the captain said. "He's wanted for questioning in connection with the fire. We have reason to believe he may have started it." Arya felt cold. Damon, an arsonist? She did not believe it. Could not believe it. "I haven't seen anyone like that," she lied. "But I'll keep watch. If anyone suspicious comes by, I'll send word immediately." The captain studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "See that you do." There's a reward for information leading to his capture. They rode away, and Arya stood very still until they disappeared into the forest. Then she went inside. Damon was packing his few belongings. I have to leave. Now. I've put you in danger. Did you start that fire? Arya asked directly. No. He met her eyes and she believed him. But I know who did. And they want me dead. Why? Because I'm in their way. He shouldered his pack. Thank you for saving my life, Arya. I won't forget it. Wait. She grabbed his arm. You can't just leave. Those soldiers will be watching the roads. And you're still not fully healed. I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Arya made a decision that would change everything. Stay hidden. I have a cellar beneath the cottage. You can hide there when people come. And at night you can move freely. Why would you do this? Damon asked. You don't even know me. I know enough, Arya said. I know you're not evil. I know someone powerful wants you dead. And I know that leaving you to face that alone would be wrong. Something shifted in Damon's expression. Gratitude, yes, but also something warmer. Something that made Arya's heart beat faster. You're either very brave or very foolish, he said. Probably both, Arya admitted. That night, as rain began to fall and thunder rolled across the mountains, Damon stayed. And in that small cottage at the edge of the world, something began to grow between a healer and a stranger. Something neither of them expected. Something that would either save them both or destroy everything they had ever known. #### shadows in the night. 2 weeks passed. Damon remained hidden during the day, emerging only after dark to help Arya with her work. They fell into a comfortable rhythm, working side by side in the quiet hours. He proved surprisingly good at preparing medicines, his hands steady and precise as he ground herbs and mixed salves. You've done this before, Arya observed one night as they worked by candlelight. Damon's hands paused. My mother taught me. Before she died. It was the first personal thing he had shared. Arya did not push for more, but she filed the information away. A mother who knew healing. Another piece of the puzzle. What was she like? Arya asked gently. Strong. Kind. She believed in helping people, even when it was dangerous. Damon smiled, but it was sad. You remind me of her sometimes. The words hung in the air between them. Arya felt her cheeks warm and turned back to her work to hide it. The soldiers came back today, she said, changing the subject. They're expanding their search. They seem desperate to find someone. They are, Damon said quietly. Because if they don't, everything they've worked for will fall apart. What do you mean? He was quiet for so long that Arya thought he would not answer. Then he set down the pestle he had been using and looked at her directly. If I tell you the truth, you'll be in even more danger than you already are. Are you sure you want to know? Arya thought about it. Part of her wanted to say no, to keep living in ignorance where she was safe. But a larger part, the part that had run into a burning building to save a stranger, needed to know. Yes, she said. I want to know. Damon took a deep breath. The fire wasn't an accident. It was set deliberately to kill me. And the person who set it is someone I once trusted with my life. Why would someone want you dead? Because I stand in the way of what he wants most. Damon's eyes were dark with old pain. Power. Control. A crown that doesn't belong to him. Arya's breath caught. A crown. Your nobility. Something like that. Damon stood and walked to the window, looking out at the dark forest. My name is Damon, but my full name is Damon Blackthorn. Prince Damon Blackthorn. And until 2 months ago, I was heir to the throne of Thornhaven. The world tilted. Arya sat down hard on her stool, staring at the man she had been living with for 2 weeks. The prince. The lost prince that everyone had been whispering about. The one who supposedly died in a tragic accident. They said you fell from your horse, Arya whispered. They said you were killed instantly. That's what my cousin Marcus wanted everyone to believe. Damon's voice was bitter. He pushed me from that cliff himself. I survived only because I landed in the river. I've been running ever since, trying to stay alive long enough to figure out how to prove what he did. The fire. Marcus found out I was hiding in the noble quarter. He burned the entire district just to kill me. Damon's hands clenched into fists. Dozens of people died because of me. Because he wanted me dead that badly. Arya stood and went to him. Without thinking, she placed her hand on his arm. It's not your fault. The guilt belongs to the person who set the fire, not to you. Damon looked down at her hand, then at her face. You should throw me out. Turn me in. Collect the reward and live comfortably. I'm not going to do that. Why not? Because you're not the villain in this story, Damon. Arya's voice was steady. Marcus is. And hiding won't solve anything. Eventually he'll find you or you'll die trying to stay hidden. Neither option is acceptable. What other choice do I have? You fight back, Arya said simply. You reclaim what's yours. You expose Marcus for what he is. Damon laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm one man with no army, no allies, and no proof. Marcus has the entire royal guard, the loyalty of the nobles, and a kingdom that believes I'm already dead. How exactly am I supposed to fight that? Arya thought about her gift, about the power that had awakened in her when she saved Damon from the fire. Power that her grandmother had always said was special, that marked their family as different from other healers. You have me, she said. Something changed in Damon's eyes. He reached up and touched her face gently, his thumb brushing across her cheek. I can't ask you to risk everything for me. You're not asking. I'm offering. They stood there in the candlelight, close enough that Arya could feel the heat from his body, could see the conflict in his eyes. He wanted to accept her help. She could see it. But he was also terrified of what it might cost her. Then he leaned down and kissed her, soft and careful, like she was something precious that might break. Arya's heart soared, and she kissed him back, pouring all her determination and courage into that moment. When they pulled apart, Damon rested his forehead against hers. If we do this, there's no going back. I know, Arya whispered. People will come after you. Marcus won't hesitate to hurt you to get to me. I know that too. And if we fail, then we fail together. Arya pulled back to look him in the eyes. But we're not going to fail. Because I have a plan. Damon raised an eyebrow. You do. Marcus can only rule because everyone thinks you're dead, right? So what if you came back? What if the prince returned from the grave with proof of what Marcus did? I don't have proof. But I know someone who might help us find it. Arya thought of old Thomas, the record keeper who lived in the village. He knew everything about everyone, kept every document and letter that passed through Thornhaven. If there was evidence, he would know where to find it. It's risky, Damon said. Everything worth doing is risky. Arya smiled. Besides, you saved my life by giving me a purpose. Let me return the favor. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the world clean. And inside the small cottage, a healer and a prince began to plan their impossible rebellion. Neither of them knew if they would succeed. But they knew one thing with absolute certainty. They would face what came next together, whatever the cost. Part 2. The Crown of Thorns, 2,000 words. The Record Keeper's Secret. Old Thomas lived in a crooked house at the center of Thornhaven, surrounded by stacks of papers and books that reached nearly to the ceiling. When Arya knocked on his door 3 days after Damon's revelation, she was not sure what to expect. Thomas had always been kind to her, but asking him to help overthrow the crown was another matter entirely. Come in, Thomas wheezed, opening the door just wide enough for her to slip inside. His eyes were sharp behind his spectacles, taking in every detail. You're here about the prince. Arya froze. How did you? I'm old, not blind, girl. Thomas shuffled toward his cluttered desk. The moment those soldiers started searching for a mysterious stranger, I knew. The timing, the desperation, the way Marcus has been consolidating power. It all points to one thing. Prince Damon survived whatever Marcus did to him. Will you help us? Arya asked directly. Thomas was quiet for a long moment, his gnarled fingers tracing the edge of an old leather journal. Marcus Blackthorn is a dangerous man, child. If I help you and we fail, he'll have me executed for treason. And if we do nothing, he'll continue to rule through fear and violence. True enough. Thomas pulled out a wooden box from beneath his desk. Your grandmother was a good woman, Arya. She saved my wife's life when the fever came through 20 years ago. I owe your family a debt. So I'll tell you what I know. He opened the box, revealing dozens of letters, all sealed with the royal crest. Marcus has been planning this for years. I have correspondence here that shows he was buying loyalty from noble houses long before the old king died. And this? He pulled out a letter with shaking hands. This is from the royal physician. It details a poison that mimics natural death. A poison that was purchased by Marcus 2 weeks before the king fell ill. Arya's heart raced. This is proof. We can use this to expose him. It's not enough, Thomas said sadly. Marcus controls the courts, the judges, the military. They'll claim these documents are forgeries. We need something more, something undeniable. What could possibly be more undeniable than a letter proving he murdered his own father? Thomas fixed her with a serious look. A living witness. Someone Marcus trusts, someone close to him who knows the truth. Without that, these papers are just paper. Arya felt her hope deflating. Who would be willing to testify against him? Everyone fears him. Not everyone. Thomas tapped the desk thoughtfully. There's Lady Celeste. She was engaged to Daemon before his supposed death. Marcus has been trying to force her into marriage now, to solidify his claim. But she's refused him repeatedly. If anyone has reason to see Marcus fall, it's her. #### the lady in white. Convincing Daemon to let her approach Lady Celeste alone was harder than convincing Thomas to help. The prince paced the small cottage like a caged wolf, his face dark with worry. It's too dangerous, he argued. If Marcus has people watching Celeste, they'll grab you the moment you get close. Which is exactly why you can't come with me, Arya countered. I'm nobody, just a village healer making a house call. You're the supposedly dead prince. Your face would give everything away. Arya. Daemon, we need her. And she needs to know you're alive. Arya took his hands in hers. Trust me. I can do this. Finally, reluctantly, he agreed. But the kiss he gave her before she left was desperate, like he feared he might never see her again. Lady Celeste lived in a manor on the eastern edge of the noble district, in one of the few buildings that had survived the fire. The guards at the gate tried to turn Arya away, but she insisted she had urgent medicine for the lady's headaches. Eventually they let her through. Celeste was beautiful, with golden hair and green eyes that held deep sadness. She received Arya in her private sitting room, dismissing her servants before speaking. You're not really here about medicine, Celeste said quietly. Are you? No, my lady. Arya glanced at the door to make sure they were truly alone. I'm here about Prince Daemon. Celeste went very still. Daemon is dead. No, he's not. He's alive and he needs your help. For a long moment Celeste just stared at her. Then tears began streaming down her face. Alive? Truly. I knew it. I knew Marcus was lying. I could feel in my heart that Daemon was still out there somewhere. He's been hiding, healing from his injuries. But he can't reclaim the throne without proof of what Marcus did. And without witnesses willing to testify. Celeste wiped her tears away, and her expression hardened. Marcus killed the king. His own uncle. I've known for months, but I could never prove it. He's been threatening me, saying if I don't marry him, he'll have me arrested for conspiracy. Then help us bring him down, Arya urged. Stand with Daemon when he returns. Tell the court what you know. They'll kill me, Celeste whispered. Marcus has assassins everywhere. But if you don't, you'll be forced to marry him, and Daemon will never be able to come home. Arya leaned forward. I know you're scared. I'm terrified too. But sometimes being brave means doing what's right, even when it might cost us everything. Celeste was quiet for a long time. Then she stood and walked to her window, looking out at the gardens. I loved him, you know. Daemon. We were supposed to be married before Marcus destroyed everything. If there's truly a chance to make this right, to give him back what was stolen, then yes. I'll help. I'll testify. Relief flooded through Arya. Thank you, my lady. Call me Celeste. The lady turned back with a sad smile. And tell Daemon that I'm glad he found someone brave enough to fight for him. He deserves that kind of love. Arya felt her cheeks warm, but she did not deny it. She did love Daemon, even though they had known each other only a few weeks. Sometimes love grew slowly over years, and sometimes it hit like lightning, instant and undeniable. ##### The assassin's visit. Arya returned to the cottage as the sun was setting, her heart light with hope. They had proof. They had a witness. They had a chance. But the moment she pushed open her door, she knew something was wrong. The cottage was too quiet. No fire in the hearth, no sound of Damon moving around. And there, sitting in her chair like he owned it, was a man dressed all in black. "Hello, healer," the man said. His voice was smooth, cultured, and absolutely terrifying. "We need to have a conversation." "Where's Damon?" Arya demanded, her hand moving toward the knife at her belt. "Safe. For now." The assassin stood, and Arya saw the weapon strapped to his body. Knives, a sword, things she did not even have names for. "My employer sent me to deliver a message. Stop helping the traitor prince or you'll die. Slowly. Painfully. In ways you cannot imagine." "I'm not afraid of you," Arya said, though her heart was hammering. "You should be." The assassin moved closer, fast as a snake. "I've killed healers before. Your magic won't save you from a blade in the dark." But as he reached for her, something strange happened. Arya felt that same warmth in her chest that had awakened when she saved Damon from the fire. Her hands began to glow with golden light, brighter than before, and when the assassin's fingers touched her arm, he screamed. He jerked back, staring at his hand. The skin where he had touched her was burned, like he had grabbed hot iron. "What are you?" he gasped. Arya did not know. But her grandmother's words came back to her. "Our family's gift is older than kingdoms, child. Older than crowns and thrones. We are not just healers. We are protectors of the rightful rulers, chosen by powers greater than any man." "I am the one you should fear," Arya said, and her voice resonated with power she did not understand. "Tell your master that Prince Damon is coming home, and anyone who tries to stop him will face me." The assassin fled, crashing through the door and disappearing into the night. Arya stood there shaking, staring at her still glowing hands. Damon emerged from the cellar, where he had apparently been hiding during the whole confrontation. His eyes were wide. "Arya, what just happened?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But I think my gift is more than just healing." "That's an understatement." Damon looked at her with awe and something that might have been fear. "You're something more, Arya. Something powerful. Does it frighten you?" "No." He crossed the room and took her glowing hands in his, not flinching from the heat. "It gives me hope. Because with you by my side, I think we might actually win this." That night they made love for the first time, gentle and desperate and full of promises neither was sure they could keep. And when Arya fell asleep in Damon's arms, she dreamed of fire and crowns and a golden throne that had been waiting for centuries for the right person to claim it. ##### The plan takes shape. Over the next week they prepared. Thomas smuggled the documents to a trusted ally in the capital. Celeste spread whispers among the noble houses that Prince Damon might still be alive. And Arya practiced her newfound powers, learning to control the light that seemed to burst from her whenever she felt strong emotion. "It's getting stronger," Damon observed one evening as she made an entire room bloom with golden radiance. "Can you control it?" "Mostly." Arya let the light fade. "But I'm afraid of what might happen if I lose control during the confrontation with Marcus." "Then we make sure you don't lose control." Damon pulled her close. "We stick to the plan. We get you into the throne room during the next court session. I'll be hidden among the crowd. When the moment is right, Celeste will make her accusation. Thomas will present the documents. And I'll reveal myself. And if Marcus refuses to surrender, then we fight." Damon's expression was grim. "He has the guards, but we have the truth. And we have you." Arya rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "I'm scared." "So am I." He kissed the top of her head. "But I'm more scared of living in a world where evil wins because good people were too afraid to act." The night before they planned to return to the capital, Damon gave Arya a gift. A simple silver ring, unadorned but beautiful. "It was my mother's," he said as he slipped it onto her finger. "She told me to give it to the woman I would marry. I never thought I'd find someone worth giving it to. But then you dragged me out of a burning building and changed everything. Damon, this is a promise." he interrupted. When this is over, when Marcus is defeated and the throne is mine again, I want you by my side. Not as my healer, not as my helper, but as my wife. My queen. Arya's eyes filled with tears. I'm nobody. I'm just a village healer with strange powers I don't understand. You're everything, Daemon said simply. And if you'll have me, I'll spend the rest of my life proving it to you. She kissed him then, pouring all her love and fear and hope into that kiss. Yes, she whispered against his lips. Yes, I'll marry you. But first we have to survive tomorrow. Then we'll survive together. As dawn broke over the mountains, Arya and Daemon set out for the capital. They traveled in a simple wagon, disguised as merchants bringing goods to market. Behind them, Thomas followed with his documents. And ahead of them, somewhere in the castle, Celeste was preparing to risk everything. The final confrontation was coming, and none of them knew if they would live to see the sunset. ####the City of Whispers. The capital city of Ravencrest was nothing like Arya had imagined. She had lived her whole life in the mountain village, surrounded by quiet forests and simple people. But this place was enormous, with buildings stacked on top of each other and streets so crowded she could barely breathe. Stay close, Daemon murmured, his hand on her elbow. He wore a hood pulled low over his face, and a false beard that made him look like a completely different person. The palace is just ahead. They had timed their arrival for the weekly public court, when any citizen could bring grievances before the throne. It was the one time when the throne room doors stood open to all, and guards were spread thin managing the crowds. Getting inside would be easy. Getting out alive would be another matter. There, Daemon nodded toward a side entrance. Celeste will have left that door unlocked for us. We'll slip in while everyone's distracted by the main proceedings. But as they approached the door, a familiar figure stepped from the shadows. Lady Celeste, dressed all in white, her face pale but determined. I couldn't wait inside, she said breathlessly. There are guards everywhere, Daemon. More than usual. I think Marcus suspects something. Daemon's jaw tightened. Then we move quickly. Is Thomas in position? Yes, in the scribe's gallery. He has the documents ready. Good. Daemon looked at Arya. Last chance to back out. Once we go through that door, there's no running. Arya squeezed his hand. I'm not running. They slipped inside the palace through the servants' entrance, moving quickly through narrow corridors that smelled of bread and smoke from the kitchens. Arya's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. The throne room was massive, with soaring ceilings and stained glass windows that painted everything in colored light. Hundreds of people crowded the floor, waiting their turn to speak. And there, on the golden throne that should have belonged to Daemon, sat Marcus Blackthorne. He looked like his cousin, with the same dark hair and strong features. But where Daemon's eyes held kindness and pain, Marcus's held only cold ambition. He wore the crown like it was always meant to be his, lounging on the throne with casual arrogance. He looks so comfortable there, Arya whispered. He won't for long, Daemon replied grimly. They made their way through the crowd, keeping to the edges where shadows pooled. Celeste had gone ahead to take her place among the nobles near the throne. Thomas was visible in the gallery above, clutching his leather folder of documents. Marcus was hearing some complaint about taxes when Celeste stood up. Her white dress made her impossible to miss, and her voice rang out clear and strong. Your Majesty, I have a grievance to bring before the throne. Marcus looked annoyed. Lady Celeste, this is not the proper channel for. I accuse you of murder. Celeste's voice cut through the room like a blade. Murder of King Edward Blackthorne, your uncle and rightful ruler of this kingdom. The entire throne room exploded in shocked whispers. Guards moved forward, but Marcus held up a hand, stopping them. His face had gone carefully blank. That is a serious accusation, Lady Celeste, he said quietly. Too quietly. Do you have proof? I do. Thomas stood in the gallery above, holding up the letters. I have correspondence showing that Marcus Blackthorne purchased poison from the royal physician. I have documents proving he bribed noble houses to support his claim. And I have witness testimony that he attempted to murder his cousin, Prince Daemon, to secure the throne. The crowd's whispers grew louder, building into a roar of confusion and anger. Marcus stood slowly, his hand moving toward the sword at his belt. "These are lies," he declared. "Forgeries created by traitors who wish to undermine the crown." "Then explain this," Celeste said, and pulled out a locket from beneath her dress. She opened it to reveal a portrait. "Prince Damon gave me this before your assassination attempt. It contains a hidden message in his own hand, describing his fears that you were plotting against him. Shall I read it to the court?" Marcus's carefully controlled expression cracked. Rage flashed in his eyes. "Guards! Arrest that woman for treason." But the guards hesitated. The evidence was too damning, the accusations too specific. They looked at each other uncertainly, torn between duty and truth. That was when Damon threw back his hood and stepped forward into the light. "I think," he said, his voice carrying across the now silent throne room, "that the guards should arrest you instead, cousin." The entire room seemed to hold its breath. People craned their necks to see the supposedly dead prince standing there alive and whole. Marcus went completely still, staring at Damon like he was seeing a ghost. "Impossible," Marcus breathed. "You're dead. I saw you fall."